Hey y'all, I'm Leah.
And I'm Rachel.
We're two wives and a spark. As new parents and as an interracial couple, we're on a mission to connect with others and explore how race and politics influence so much for families like ours.
Yes, we believe intentional conversations are vehicles for change. So we're committed to learning in public and having real talk every step of the way.
And you know what? Maybe, just maybe one conversation at a time, we can make the world a better place.
I think so. So let's jump in, y'all. Welcome. We're so excited for this conversation.
Yes. We are all smiles over here. Me, Melissa, and Kim, very excited. So we don't want to hog you too much just for ourselves. We do want you to introduce yourselves to our audience and let them know if you had to define who your family is, like where do you live, introduce yourselves, tell us about your little one, tell us about your family.
So I'm Melissa Connelly.
I'm Kimberly Connelly.
We are the proud multiracial parents of Breslyn Connelly, who's at daycare right now. She is our 5-month-old daughter, who we just love more than anything. We were so lucky and blessed to become parents this year. And we live in Cleveland, Ohio, living the dream in the land.
So we know a little bit more about y'all, but how long have y'all been together?
So we've been married for just over 2 years and been together for
3.5 years.
3.5.
Okay.
Time flies when you're having a great time.
That's right.
Crazy. For Christmas, we were sitting on the couch and saw like the flashbacks. We were looking at Christmas memories, and I was like, "Oh my God, you proposed on Christmas," which was like the greatest Christmas ever. This one was close. This one was close.
Yeah.
Yeah, we gave Tink a really great present. We call our daughter Breslyn Tink. Such a cute nickname. Unplanned nickname, but it stuck. But we got her an activity center this year, so that was a very close Christmas. But we got engaged Christmas of 2019. A very big surprise. Kim had gone in cahoots with my cousin who was in town from Texas. Her entire family knew. Everyone was in on it. I did not. And you know, you guys referenced like the commonality and like coming out stories and shared experiences. I remember for a split second when Kim proposed, she was down on one knee when I finally realized that she did. And I remember my first thought being like, oh my God, what if my cousin's family are Republicans and we just ruined their Christmas? That was the first thought I had. I was like, oh God, it's really hot in here. And then I looked and everyone had like cameras and they were all smiling. And then I realized I hadn't yet said yes because my cousin's dad was like, well, sorry. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, she left me hanging for like a solid 5 minutes.
I thought the ring was fake. Yeah. So like, we're both really big Harry Potter fans. So my cousin hands me this package that looks like it's been delivered by Owl Post, if you watch Harry Potter. And I open it and I see that it is Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix? Half-Blood Prince. And I look at my cousin thinking it's a gift from her. And I was like, I own this book already. And then I was like, wait, is it one of those hollow books, you know, that like a hollow
where something's inside, yeah.
And I open it. I still think it's my cousin who's given me this gift. So I opened it, saw the ring and shut it so quickly. I didn't even like realize that it was like a proposal. And I was like, it is a hollow book. And mind you, she's been on bended knee the whole time behind me. I opened the book again and I look and I was like, jewelry? What are you giving me jewelry for? And I was like, wait a second. And it was like all of the things slotted into place. And I turned around and saw her.
I love it. That's so beautiful. And you know, it's so deep because you said something, Melissa, that struck me, even though it was like kind of a little bit joking. It is so deep that in the world that we live in, the first thought was thinking about, in some essence, like, am I safe here? Like, is this okay to be fully out? Which is really deep. And I feel that, and we can connect to that in so many different ways. And so I'm wondering, that kind of brings us into our first question, because we just like to dive into the deep end, is, you know, how has it felt to be you as, you know, lesbian identifying parents and as a couple living in Cleveland, Ohio, and just in the skin that you're in? How has it felt to be you?
I don't think I've actually ever really thought about it in a negative way. Because I've always been out at work. I always wear like rainbow shoes or have my rainbow watch on. And like my coworkers are all very aware, or if they're new coworkers, they assume that I have a husband. And then I correct them and they're like, oh, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to assume. And then we just continue on with the conversation. Like, it's not like any sort of big deal. So I feel like we're kind of blessed in that sense. They're like kind of in a bubble almost, where it feels like we're in a bubble. Because I know outside of us, like my family is not very accepting. So I think, I don't know, I feel blessed in a way that I have not had any negative impact being, you know, a two-mom relationship, you know, or like a two-mom family. So
it's interesting because I feel like I share the same opinion, but slightly different. So I feel like we are completely blessed, and, you know, we have not encountered a lot of adversity. But one thing that I think is very different about the two of us is I'm always remembering that pivotal moment where I'm like apprehensive, and then I choose to push past it. So, for example, when we moved into our neighborhood, we had a rainbow flag, and I've always wanted to put a rainbow flag on our house. We bought a new house, and I had that moment of apprehension where I was like, we live in a very Orthodox Jewish community. We chose to move here because when we looked at the neighborhood, there were like kids everywhere playing unattended. And I was like, look at all these parentless kids around. We need to live here. The kids are safe. There's not a parent in sight, and they're just playing outside. But I was like, we should be safe because it's a Jewish community, and their people have been persecuted enough. Like, hopefully they're not out to persecute other people for, you know, being different. But there was that moment where I was like, oh, what happens if, like, you know, our house gets egged, or people don't want to stop by and introduce themselves because the rainbow flag, I'm like, oh, they're lesbians. But we chose to put the flag up anyway, because I know what the flag represents to me when I drive past someone else's house with it. There's a house that was like a block down. They have a rainbow flag. And I was like, oh, babe, family, there's family on the street. And we feel safe enough to outwardly present who they are to the world. When, you know, we first went to our daughter's daycare, you know, I remember before we went in being like, are the forms going to say mother, father? Are they going to say, oh, your friend? There's always that moment of apprehension that I feel. And then I make a conscientious choice to push past it. One of the things I love the most about you, and I mean, I hands down love this about my wife, and it took me a while to get used to. My wife is a hand holder. Okay. We'll hold my hand all day, every day, no matter where we are, without a thought about it. I always think about it. I'm better now, but I would always do a quick scan of the room. Who is around? Are we going to be harassed? Are we going to be glared at? Are there parents that are going to cover their kids' eyes? I always had that one eyeball out for like the impressions that other people had based off of just menial physical contact with my own wife. And I used to get hot, like my armpits would get hot when she'd do it, like at the mall or like when we were out shopping. Yeah. And I remember choosing to like push past it because I had to make a conscientious choice to be like, I'm going to hold my wife's hand. Damn it. This is fine. I'm in love with my woman and, you know, we're good. But I always had so much just admiration for you and how you navigate the world, because she literally doesn't think about it. She's like, I'm gonna do what I want, and there's not a second thought that goes through her mind. So I feel like I aspire to be that way. And it's a continual practice. I'm so much better at it now.
You are much better at it.
Thank you. But yeah, there's those moments that I can think of where I sit there and I say, we are very blessed. But I think that just functioning in the world as an LGBTQ plus person, there is usually that moment of apprehension or that moment of conscious thought about how other people are going to react to you and your family.
Man, y'all already just gem dropping. Like there's so many things in that I'm like the flag piece in particular. When we first moved in our neighborhood, we came morning, afternoon, and night to see how the neighborhood operated, right? Yeah. And walked and looked for flags, signs, like all the things. Yeah. Because it does help you feel a sense of safety to know what your neighborhood represents. Right? Mm-hmm. And so that meant a lot to me. So I definitely connected on that note. And I think the other piece around, I love that you both have two different ends of the spectrum, right? Like, Kim, I love that you're like, yeah, I'll represent my rainbow stuff in the way that I want to and put it in my body in different places, correct a person and move on. Like, I'm not about to lose sleep or energy over it. And let them learn and grow as they need to learn and grow. Like, there's so much richness and beauty in that. Mm-hmm. And Melissa, for you, like, I 100% feel like I am very similar. Like I am consciously making decisions to be like, okay, I'm gonna put on my pride shirt and we're gonna go to the library. But I am gonna look before I walk in there and be like, hey, let's go. Okay, come on. Come on, Amber, we good. Let's go. But I'm ready.
Yeah.
But I'm also like, I want to represent my community, like
Yeah.
both is happening at the same time. And when we were interviewing a couple this week, we talked a lot about like how much space that takes up. Right. And so then what we're not able to be thinking about or replace it. And so when our partners kind of help us relax in just being ourselves and be free and liberated in being ourselves, so many other things get to enter our brains and our hearts and our minds. And
I feel like there's always those moments where that weight is lifted and that conscious thought isn't there. And after that moment, you're like, oh my God, I didn't think about it. So yesterday we were at Target and the chatty lady that cashed us out was like talking forever. She was like, oh, do you need like a gift receipt? And I was like, no, it's for our baby. And I remember after I said that, not that I've ever tried to hide that she's our child, but I remember a split second after, I was like, man, I said that loud as hell. Like everybody in the store knows it's our baby. There were like 4 people in line behind us. And I remember like having this inner sense of pride that like, I didn't hesitate. I didn't stutter. I didn't even like have a moment of pause. I was so proud. I was like, it's our daughter. We have a baby.
That's so real.
And I feel like those moments you literally internally celebrate just that pride in self and pride and confidence in self. And I think that that's something that's so important. And it's like you win that battle against yourself. And that's the best kind of pride.
Because it's a practice. We have found it's just a practice. It's a muscle because we've been conditioned. It's a lot of unlearning, but it's self-protection. Like there's so many layers of it where we have examples left and right of people who aren't safe and our community is under attack in many ways. And so how do we learn and understand our conditioning, but also work to fight against it, right? It's so complex.
Yeah.
I often think about our ancestors and like, I carry that energy into spaces that I know I'm like entering and don't necessarily know the landscape of. Like there are people who fought for me to be able to be married, to have a child, to have my name on the birth certificate, all those things. And so that carries me in times when I'm like uncertain. But when I have similar moments of pride where I'm like, yeah, we both are out here holding Amber's hand while she's walking or like, like doing little things together and being very out. And as we walk around this neighborhood, being very out. And that is a very prideful moment to not have to think about it, just be.
I don't know if you guys have the children's book, 'Twas the Night Before Pride. If you do not have it, go get it. Okay. It was a gift. Our friends Dom and Ariel got it for us. And, we got so many children's books that we've just been working our way through them at bedtime. And this one at the end, I'm not going to spoil it for you, but at the end, it has this one-liner about your family and pride. And I kid you not, it was bedtime. I'm reading to Breslyn, just tears just streaming down my face. And I was like, oh, this is the best book about pride, our family. It goes along with that sense of pride and showing up with your family and feeling as though you belong just like every other family. And it evoked such powerful emotions. By the time I got done with it, I was like, this is a children's book that was extremely well done. So I will send it to y'all if you want it. Consider it a late Christmas gift as our present. But it's such a beautiful book.
The next layer of this is like, so being out in your community, right? Every city, every town has their own dynamic around the political landscape and what things, because you have, social media is one world where there is such extreme rhetoric, right? And then there's the on the grounds, going on a walk and seeing the rainbow flags. There's so many layers to this, is how it plays out locally. How has your local dynamic influence, like whether it's politics, book bans at schools? I know we as couples, we both have little bitty ones, so we're not necessarily dealing with the school system yet and public school, but I wonder how much book bans or laws or local issues or anti-LGBTQIA plus rhetoric has influenced y'all, even if it's at that unconscious level. What's it looking like in Ohio, and how has that been for y'all?
Well, it's gotten to the point where we are considering moving.
Yeah, Ohio 616, HB 616 was a new bill. It passed
It did pass.
That more or less stated that if a curriculum included anything that could be determined as divisive, critical race theory, I mean, they put everything underneath of this umbrella. And when it passed, I remember sitting there saying, so our child can't go to school and talk about her vacation with her two moms. And she can't sit there and talk about her ethnicity as a Korean Black woman. I feel like the state has literally just surpassed my level of tolerance for things we're willing to put up with. So we are looking at moving and what that looks like for me career-wise. Kind of a waiting game to see if there are any positions, for my job in which I could transfer to a different state laterally or promotion-wise, which I think is a little bit difficult for me right now, just because we just had a baby, just coming back from maternity leave. We're considering it.
I mean, it gives us time. It buys us some time to like weigh all of our options, take a look at places that would be more inclusive to live, where we also have a built-in community, because we have such a great family of friends here and like such a great community that we can like really lean on and depend on in terms of, if we need a date night, we have built-in babysitters that, I mean, they're like lining up at the door to come watch
That's
her.
Amazing.
We were sick. What was it? 2 weeks ago when everybody was sick? So Kim was down for the count, didn't know whether it was flu, COVID, RSV. They test you for everything now, right?
Yeah.
Because you never know. Baby was sick. I was sick. And in one day, unasked, one day, we literally had 3 different groups of friends stop by with foodstuffs, Pedialyte, Airborne, chicken noodle soup, sandwiches, cough drops, you name it, like back to back. And each of them thought that they were like the only ones that were doing it. They were like, hey, we love y'all so much. Don't answer the door. We're dropping off a care package. Yep. Oh, by the way, we brought Breslyn's Christmas present because we were hoping to see y'all before the holidays. And so we took a picture of like our kitchen table, which was just a surplus of Gatorade, Pedialyte, you name it, it was on there. And I'm like, that level of like chosen family and that level of support, I think is the one thing that makes Ohio tolerable. And the fact that we do live in a county that didn't make us have a home inspection for second parent adoption. That was also a win for us. We did have to go to court. We did have to get a lawyer, family attorney to represent us, but our daughter is now legally our daughter, unequivocally, irrevocably by law. But we didn't have to have a home visit. Luckily, we live in a county that kind of just passes that. You don't need it. So that is one great thing that I can say about the state of Ohio.
We're in Austin, Texas, and we've also thought about, is this the place we stay, right? Do we raise Ember here? Because she's, a Black and white woman too. Like, do we put her in the school system? How do we navigate all that she's surrounded by in terms of this political climate, and we have family here. And that is a huge thing. That's like, and when we were sick, same thing, right? Dropping things off, making sure we had the soup we needed, making sure we had all the medicine. And that does play a huge role in safety, making you feel connected and having that village. So that really resonates with me. And I just hope you all, it's a mirror for you all to see, like, you really do send a lot of love into the world. And like, I know in the social media world where there's lots of influencers, it can feel like you're another person doing influencing, but it changes lives. Like, Melissa, you've shared a number of stories just about your dynamic with your mom, and even Kim sharing it now. I don't know, it opens up my thinking space to hear your story and to then reflect on like, well, how do I feel about my dynamic? It gives me an opportunity and a chance to really process. You're doing more than creating content. You are saving lives in a lot of ways.
I mean, and I'm so grateful, for Instagram as a platform, right? So I started sharing our journey leading into the beginning of 2020. Because we won a free wedding. You're not likely to hear that.
That's right.
We won a free wedding at the beginning of 2020. And I wanted to just give a little love to the vendors that put it together for us to have, that amazing once in a lifetime opportunity. And so many people became invested in the story leading down the aisle that it was, it was a pandemic. I'm locked in my office. We were working from home. And I mean, I was so lonely. I was literally shouting out the window to like our blind neighbor, Shari. Shout out to her if she ever sees this. Her and her dog, Gregory, making new friends. And my wife was going to work trying to save people who were dying of COVID.
Right.
You know, very, very real, very low point. And I found so much connection online with people that just connected to our story, that connected to, you know, the fact that our families weren't going to be in attendance at our wedding. And it became something other than what I even intended it to be when I first started this. And to look at where we are now, you know, 2 years later, I can't even tell you how many families we've met online, but then have met in person. One of my very best friends is another creator that I met online at the beginning of 2020. And her girlfriend, you know, Kara, her partner Kara, and their daughter Mila. I don't know if you follow Kara's ATL.
Yeah, we do. They're gonna be on the show too.
So I was literally going to call her when we got off. So we're going back to visit them in February because we haven't seen her since like Christmas of last year. And to just be able to have that visibility, her and I talk about it all the time, where Mila, her daughter, is able to see other 2-mom families, because when we send our kids out in the world, right, we send them to school, they're always the minority. They are always the other. And there's that perception that, oh, my family is different because everyone else's family looks different. And so trying to insulate our child and insulate our family with the knowledge that, hey, when life gets tough and it's hard, you remember you're not the only one. And even though the world day to day that you see doesn't reflect what you know in your heart, there are other families that look like yours. And we've been so blessed to just have so much community that started online and transcended to where we have chosen family, where, you know, we had a remote baby shower because they couldn't all make it. And I was surprised we had like 12 different families that we're friends with from Instagram show up for an online baby shower. I'm in tears, like sitting in my office, just because, you know, some of them couldn't make it, but we had friends come from North Carolina. The word queer dominarial flew in for our baby shower. It's just, it's so humbling to see, you know, just how much small posts that are vulnerable can actually, you know, equate to, and how much they actually mean to people. And I feel so blessed to have had the platform to do so, to make people feel less alone, and to bring together, you know, just that sense of family that so many of us don't have organically or, you know, via blood.
You all are so intentional too with the way you share things and how you share things. And so I'm curious to know, you know, your daughter's 5 months. And so there are conversations that I'm sure y'all are having about the future. But I would love to hear, as someone, our daughter's 11 months, it is nice to hear just how y'all are thinking about things or talking about things. So when you think about just the political climate and moving and all those, how do you think about talking with your daughter about those things as she gets older?
Yeah, I think a lot of those conversations kind of vary depending on where it is that we live, right? So if you are sending your child to school in a very conservative red state, your conversation may be a little bit different than if you lived in a very progressive area. So I think it's more getting ahead of it, right? So playing a good, is it offense or defense? How's the term go? The best offense is a good defense. Defense is offense. I don't watch enough football to know how this goes. I'm trying to find the wording.
I love it. And we can't help you either.
Best defense is a good offense. She watches football. Yeah. I just bring in snacks while she's watching football. So it's getting out ahead of it, right? And having those conversations that are like, you know, when you go to school and someone says, you know, what are your mommy and daddy's name? How do you feel about answering that? Do you feel like you're able to find the words and like kind of not play acting, but, you know, role playing how those conversations will go when they get to school? Shoot, I'm in sales. We role play just for objections that people might have when you're trying to sell stuff. And this is your real life representation of your family. And like we said earlier, we are very privileged in some areas. Like our daycare, for example, they have a family tree. They asked everybody to bring in pictures of the child's parents and their family tree. And I remember sitting there and being like, oh, this is cool. I was like, do you mean for like the infant classroom too? And they were like, yeah. And so I was like, okay. So I'm like cutting out pictures of Kim and I and cutting out pictures of Tink. And I brought him in. We were the first family to bring it in, by the way. It's up on the wall now. Like literally the first out of all of these infants in this class, we were the first family. Yeah, I know.
Achievers, I love it. Yep.
Probably because we have more pride, in just sharing those pictures of our family. Shoot, we were one of the first Christmas cards that were up on that little banner in the front. I was like, look at her. And so I think that it's making sure that, she knows how to speak about her family and that there's no shame in her having a family. It's not good. It's not bad. It's just your family. It is a fact that you have two moms. And I think making sure that there's no implied shame about that is probably like the thing that's the highest on my priority list when we talk to our daughter.
Yeah, and I think we're already kind of starting to get ahead of it just with the books that we choose to read with her. Like we want to make sure that she feels represented. So we have books with little Black girls in it that have similar hair
curls, hair love,
really great hair, and a slightly darker skin tone. And then we have books with little Asian girls in them because
eyes that kiss in the corners.
Because we want to make sure that she can see herself in the books that we read. And then we have lots of books about two moms and just in families in general, because every family looks different. Not every family has two parents. Not every family has biological parents. So like I think it's really important for her to just be able to see other represented families, because I feel like that would make her feel less than other. Because I grew up being the only Asian American in my neighborhood, or I grew up in a very like conservative rural area in Central Florida, where my mom was the only Asian that people saw for 50 miles. So she was easily identifiable. And then the fact that she didn't really speak English made her stand out even more. And so like there was a lot of pressure placed on me, I think that I placed on myself really, to kind of be better than just the minority or the token minority in my neighborhood or, in my community. And so like there was a long time where I went without seeing another Asian person, besides my mom. I think it's just really important that we are able to give her a community that, have other children that look similar to her or have a similar ethnicity or background. So I think it's starting now. And I think that's the best way to like stay on top of it is to, make sure that I guess she doesn't know anything else. It's like we've introduced all of these other things. So like she's sort of immersed in it and she doesn't know what it's like to not feel represented. For me, that's been super important.
One thing that I heard from friends of ours, so I love Christmas cards. Growing up, not celebrating Christmas for 20 years, I am like the happiest person during the month of December. Our cards go out like mid-November because I remember, I made a post about this where I remember thinking that Christmas card families were the happy families. Those were the families that were stable. Those were the families that had a mom and a dad and kids. And I wanted to be that family when I grew up. But then I grew up and came out and I was like, oh crap, I've never seen that family that looks like me. I've never seen two moms and kids on a card. I've never seen two dads and kids on a card. And at the time I was like, I've never even seen single parents or an interracial couple on a card. Mm-hmm. And so I started this Christmas card journey when I first moved out of state. I made a Christmas card with our dog. And I sent it to friends and I was like, it's me and Toby. Merry Christmas, everyone. Because I was like, this is my family, but I deserve to be just as proud as anyone else. And even before we got married, I was like, do you want to do like a Christmas card with me? So it grew from there into, I have a collection of our cards over the years to see the progression of our family. And my hope is always that I want to be that. I want to be that representation on someone else's fridge so that when their child walks by to get a snack out of the refrigerator at midnight, if they're sitting alone in their bedroom going, oh, I think I might feel like I'm LGBTQ plus, or, maybe I'm this ethnicity, and the kid I have a crush on is this ethnicity. And is it okay? Like, is it normal? I want them to feel assured in who they are because they walked by a Christmas card that told them it was okay. That is why I send Christmas cards. And someone told me, they were like, I kind of want to make a book out of the Christmas cards that we get so that our children year after year can look at families repeatedly that look like theirs or look different from theirs, but are equally okay and just as beautiful. And I save all of our Christmas cards year after year, get in a photo album, because we're going to sit there and flip through them and say, these are the families that you might not have grown up seeing every day, but they're families that exist, that you talk to, that we FaceTime with, and they're families that are just like yours. I think that's one of the biggest gifts that we can give her.
Yeah. And I even love that the daycare has it as an opportunity for you to bring pictures in, because you think about the children who, maybe in their personal lives, they don't get that much exposure, but at least this daycare is like, what we can do is like, make sure the exposure happens here and to extend that is such a smart idea. I love that.
It's the little things. It's those micro moments. Just the fact that they use the words parents instead of mom and dad, that just makes you feel a little bit less isolated. It's like that olive branch. Okay, that's us. We are that. We're going to submit our picture. Those little steps matter so much. And I love the mention, Kim, of the books, right? Because at this age, that's their exposure. That's their world. Whatever is in our house and what they see on our daily walks is their world, or in Target or whatever, right? And so I think the books that they see, I just got a photo album, that one of those just simple 4x6 photo albums last month, to put our family's pictures, so that because she's starting to identify names, like and so for the more that she sees pictures, but I love that idea of putting the Christmas cards.
Go ahead and DM me your address. I'm gonna add y'all to the Christmas card list next year. You're like, this is Breslyn.
I love that.
Yeah, no, it's beautiful. It's so beautiful. And it's the little things that I think are going to make the biggest difference in making sure that our daughters feel like those they all add up. Those million little micro moments are what's going to create their sense of safety and belonging and all of that.
And it's those moments, that intentionality of reading those books, of creating the space, of putting things in a photo album, that is very healing. It creates this light and love. And I'm not in any way saying, shape or form, saying like everything we do is perfect and we have thought through everything. Like, no, but like, I do think we do a lot of things with intentionality, and it sounds like you all do as well. And that is very healing, because then our little humans can go out into the world and just be. And that within itself is very healing for other children to be around. It matters. It matters.
And they're going to mirror what we say and do, right? So, the more inclusive our language is, just in general, like they're going to pick up on and be able to, reflect that back, in their smaller community of school or daycare or whatever, wherever they are. So.
Right.
Yeah, well, that gets us to kind of our last question, because we've talked about the influence of so many dynamics. And I feel like as we're closing out, we have just two more for you. One is, you had a magic wand. What would you like to see all parents, not just parents in our community, but all parents, ally parents, doing more of?
I would say lead with love. Mm-hmm. So signature on my email says lead with love. And I think it's because love is that defining emotion that for the most part is relatable to everyone, right? And I feel as though humans are at their best when they love. It comes from an altruistic place more often than not. And you make the best decisions that you've made in life when they're made with love in mind. And so if I were to say that I wish for anything from parents, it's to lead outwardly with the love you have for your kids when they're small, before they've decided that they grow into someone you weren't expecting, before they have that definitive parting of ways where they're emerging independent of you. That love that everyone has for their child when they're small. I think if you could hold on to that and broadcast it out into the world, because that's where unconditional love is. It's the purest sense of the word. And I feel like if you were able to just have that level of acceptance and that level of patience and that level of kindness and that level of just pure altruism towards everyone, God damn, the world would be a really beautiful place.
I think in my line of work, advocacy is a huge thing. Like, right, is I'm always advocating on behalf of my patients, on, behalf of family members. And so I think if we just took a little bit more time out to advocate for the stranger, and of course, like leading with love, I think it kind of plays in with that too. I don't know. If you could risk something for someone else, like what does that do to you?
Yeah, because then we're not always in this fight mode, right? If I'm just speaking up and I love to advocate for the stranger. If I'm advocating for the stranger always, we don't always have to then be in fight mode, right? Because it's like, no, that's just not accepted. We don't need to fight again. This is just not accepted. It doesn't impact me directly, but that doesn't matter. Like, it impacts someone else. We don't do that here. And then that's really what starts to change the world, so that more of us really can lead with love. Man,
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having us. Like, so great to get to know you two better, and can't wait for us to get together offline in real life.
For sure.
That'd be awesome.
Thanks for joining us today, y'all. We'd love to stay connected on Instagram and Facebook, so you can find us at 2 Wives and a Spark, all spelled out.
If you enjoyed today's episode, share it with a friend so we can keep the sparks of connection going. If you want access to our episodes as soon as they drop, click that subscribe button. Every rating and review helps others find us, so thank you in advance for letting us know what you think. I'm Leah.
And I'm Rachel.
Thank you for listening to 2 Wives and a Spark.
Yeah.